gang leadership had given them clearance to kill police officers in the United States.
How do you know that?
Intelligence gathered from various sources.
And did all police departments in the metro area know this?
I originally heard it from another agency outside the state of Colorado, and then Colorado intelligence put it out shortly thereafter. But I initially heard it from another state.
You heard it from another state?
Yes.
That gang activity is hot in Denver, that they've been okayed by their superiors to kill law enforcement, and that complexes are being taken over by gangs.
Yes.
The long arm of the law joins us. Darren Weekly, Sheriff of Douglas County. Well, first, why do you like donuts so much?
Who doesn't love a good donut now and again?
Do you get tired of that stereotype?
No, it's fine. It's a good way to interact with people.
Hey, it's been a while since you and I chatted. Really what I wanted to talk about was immigration issues in Colorado, in Denver, around the Denver metro area, which includes Douglas County, and try to get a different perspective. I keep hearing about Venezuelan gangs, and I keep hearing, no, there really isn't much Venezuelan gangs. Set me straight. What's going on in the Denver metro area and with illegals from Venezuela?
There's absolutely 100% a Venezuelan gang problem in the Denver metro area. We're one of many states where Tren de Aragua, TDA, has branched out to, and Denver is a main hub. And obviously with Denver, with their sanctuary policies, they were bussed into the city of Denver. But again, many have branched out to cities like Aurora.
Let me ask, what is it about Venezuela? I mean, there are migrants spilling over the border from all over South and Latin America. Why Venezuelan gangs? What's the difference here?
Well, the Tren de Aragua was started in Venezuela as a Venezuelan prison gang. And so they decided to migrate up into the United States because of the Biden-Harris open border policies. And they went across the open border and went throughout the United States. I'm not saying every Venezuelan's a criminal, not by a long shot, but many of these people were, and they're now committing crimes. Everything from drug trafficking to robberies, burglaries, murder, sexual assault, and it's happening all over the United States.
You say they were a prison gang. Are they still a prison gang? Did they get out of prison in Venezuela, or?
That's where they originated from. I'm sure there's still, many of them in prison in Venezuela.
Was this something like when Castro emptied the jails and sent them all to America, so it was our problem? Is it something similar to that, or are these just Venezuelan criminals?
I can't say for certain. I have heard the same things that many of these people, these various nations wanted to get rid of, and they sent them through our southern border.
Let's talk first about Aurora. And I know it's not really your beat, but help me with this. When the apartment complexes were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and we saw the video of it, it was downplayed. And I get it. Nobody in Aurora, the city council, mayor, great people, they don't want to advertise this is what's going on in their city. But there seemed to be this chorus saying, this is not really a thing. And as the truth comes out, it seems like it was a thing. What happened in Aurora?
Before the information went public, we in law enforcement started hearing about the gang takeovers of the apartment complexes. Again, long before this hit the media. I think it was minimized by the Aurora Police Department, by the city of Aurora. They initially said that the apartment complex was shut down because of code violations, things like that. Well, when you see a SWAT officer that's what we call fully kitted up with a rifle slung over going door to door, they don't do that for code violations. My deputies and my detectives specifically have had several criminal investigations that have led us to the area of Dallas Street, Nome Street, as part of crimes that have occurred in my jurisdiction where we've traced and tracked these criminals back to those apartment complexes.
In Aurora.
Yes.
When you said you heard about this months before, what I'm finding in Colorado, all over politics, is that we, the poor idiot citizens, don't seem to find out about things until later. I think of Jenna Griswold saying, we're not going to let people know we've let out all these passwords on the voting machines because we don't want to start a panic, that she's doing a favor for us. Am I hearing kind of the same thing here? Law enforcement knew for 2 months that this apartment complex was overrun with Venezuelan gangs?
Yes. And law enforcement was made aware in July that we had been targeted or green lighted to be executed by a TDA.
We being who?
Law enforcement.
Tell me, add some meat to that. What did you know? When did you know it? And what do you mean they were okay trying to kill you?
Gang leadership had given them clearance to kill police officers in the United States.
How do you know that?
Intelligence gathered from various sources.
And did all police departments in the metro area know this?
I originally heard it from another agency outside the state of Colorado, and then Colorado intelligence put it out shortly thereafter. But I initially heard it from another state.
You heard it from another state?
Yes.
That gang activity is hot in Denver, that they've been okayed by their superiors to kill law enforcement, and that complexes are being taken over by gangs.
Yes.
You heard all of that from outside of the state before you heard it from inside of the state. I just want to really understand
the green
that.
lighting of law enforcement I heard from outside the state. The takeover of gangs we heard from within the state.
Can I ask who out of state?
I'm not going to divulge that.
When you got this information, even though Aurora's not your place, it spills into Dougco pretty easily. What was your reaction?
That we're not going to tolerate it. In Douglas County, we still fight crime. We're very aggressive. Now, we're not a major metropolitan city like the city of Denver or the city of Aurora. But the fact of the matter is we will not tolerate. We are going to track down these criminals, and we're going to make arrests. I want the reputation. If you come into Douglas County, we will chase you, we will catch you, and we will put you in jail. I'm looking forward to the 23rd Judicial District, which is our new judicial district that starts in January. George Brockler is going to be getting that seat. George is a hard-nosed prosecutor, and he's going to be a great partner in terms of public safety for Douglas County. But in regards to your initial question, I was infuriated. The fact of the matter is the Denver with their sanctuary policies, if Denver gets sick, everybody else catches a cold. It's maddening that this has been allowed to happen. And my citizens that I swore to serve and protect are becoming victims because of somebody else's decisions.
When you say Denver's sanctuary city policies, I hear that term, and I'm not too certain what it exactly means. What policies does Denver have that you consider to make it a sanctuary city?
They won't enforce immigration law, and they won't cooperate with immigration authorities. Just
hit that back. So Denver will not help ICE or feds enforce immigration policy.
That's correct. And they also welcome these migrants to be bused up to the city of Denver.
How do they do that? I'm not challenging you.
No,
I just want to hear it out
I don't
of
know
your
the
mouth.
logistics behind it and what conversations have taken place at the government level. But Denver has opened itself up to busloads of migrants coming in. The overwhelming majority of these people have been unvetted. They don't know who they are. They're given places to stay. In some cases, Denver had shipped people out of the city of Denver, like Adams County and El Paso County. To my knowledge, they haven't shipped anybody in Douglas County. But this has become our problem in law enforcement in the Denver metro area to deal with.
So now that we have a new president, let's just play the cards out. You endorsed Donald Trump. You even spoke at a Trump rally here in Denver, actually in Aurora. Why'd you feel so strongly about that?
Because we need to take our country back.
From whom?
From the woke liberal left. Our country, from my perspective, our country has been a nation that's been in decline. We are not respected on an international level. We need law and order back in our country. At some point, like during the 2020, the cops became the bad guys. I strongly feel that the pendulum is swinging the other way. Obviously, Trump got elected. And so I think the American citizens are fed up with the far left. Most Americans are in the middle, right? They're not far left, they're not far right. But I think Americans have seen enough over the last 4 years to realize that our country is definitely headed in the wrong direction. I'm old enough to remember the Jimmy Carter days. I was a little kid, but I'm old enough to remember.
I remember it well too.
This point in time felt like that. We were not respected when Jimmy Carter was president. Our economy was in a dumpster, and we're in that same place. And I think this election cycle, Americans said, "Hang on a second, this is not good for us," and they spoke with their vote.
Your support of Donald Trump and your vocal support of him is out of step with Douglas County. I believe Douglas County did not vote for Donald Trump.
They did. He did win, Douglas.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much?
No, it wasn't by a lot.
Even Lauren Boebert just barely won Douglas County. You told me you're the only Republican sheriff in the Denver metro area.
That's correct.
Out of the 7 counties there. Growing up here, that is unthinkable to me. Yeah, Denver would always have a Democratic sheriff, still be a law and order guy. And the sheriff was the chief of police for Denver, because Denver doesn't have elected sheriffs. But everybody else was a Republican. Maybe not Adams County, but that was that.
Mm-hmm.
You're an endangered species.
I am, and I think I probably got a target on my back. I get along with.
So if it's not the voters,
right.
It's going to be the Venezuelans. So you're living
exactly.
comfortably.
Yeah, I'm batting 1,000. I get along with my sheriff peers throughout the metro area, but obviously the demographics in the state have changed. They've even changed in Douglas County. But yes, I'm the last Republican sheriff in the Denver metro area. I don't run that agency. I don't care what your party affiliation. I don't run the agency like that. There's some people that were upset with my Trump speech, that how dare you, and I heard it all. But I felt
Would you do it again?
Yes, 100%. I felt it was the right thing to do. I knew I was going to make people mad, but the alternative, are you kidding me? I don't know what would have happened if Kamala Harris got elected president, what our country would look like in 4 years. So I did what I thought was right.
Even though you knew that there was no way Colorado was going to give its electoral votes to Trump.
I knew that, but I had to stand for what I believed in. I love this country. I love my community, and I'm going to do what I can to fight for it. And as the sheriff, I was invited. Trump's people called me a few days ahead of time, and they told me, kind of just in general what they would like me to talk about, and they left it at that.
They didn't give you a script?
Nope. I wrote it myself, and it went really great. I'm blessed to have been in the position that I was in to give that speech. This country is blessed because we have Donald Trump to look forward to as a president. I think things are going to change drastically. I think the nonsense that the citizens have endured in our country over the last 4 years is going to be over. I think we will see a lot of the wars that have been going on around the world. I think they'll come to an end. I think a lot of the nonsense.
I think your expectations are a little too high.
They may be. We'll see what happens.
He's just president, and there's so much machinery around the governmental blob on all these levels. One president is not going to be able to reverse course more than just slow it down. It's going to take a huge cultural change over decades.
I don't disagree with you, but I think the fact that we have all 3 branches of government, and then we've got somebody at the top, just my opinion, I don't know who's been running the country. I don't think it's not been
the president.
Joe Biden. But if we have somebody at the top that is engaged in the problems that we're dealing with, we have Congress, we have the Supreme Court. I think a lot of problems can be solved that have been plaguing this country over the last 4 years.
Let's bring it back to Colorado and the metro area.
Okay.
So the idea of mass deportations is a question mark. As Trump has fond of doing, I think he talks a good game, but mass deportations is going to be a ridiculously difficult, complex, legally challenging, and just the actual mechanics of it is going to be challenging to do that. I don't know exactly how it can be done if even the courts let them. It's easy to let 9 million people spill over the border. It's going to be really tricky to get them back on the other side. Do you think mass deportations are really going to happen?
I think, and the president has already said this, the president-elect has already said this, that they're going to start with the criminals and the people on the terror watch list first. If you go to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office website, you will see a button on the website that shows the demographics of our inmate population. Last I checked, we had 11 ICE holds in our jail. It'll give you the demographic of every inmate in our facility. If you just start with the people that have ICE holds, and then the people on the watch list, there's going to be plenty of work for ICE.
Because they're already captured. Is that what you're telling me?
Correct.
They're already there. ICE doesn't have to go knocking on doors to find them. You already have them.
That's correct. But state law, Colorado law, prohibits us from holding them only for ICE holds. So they're in our jail on other charges. We can't hold people just on ICE holds.
And that's Colorado state law.
That's correct.
When did that become a Colorado state law?
2019.
All right. So recently.
Yes.
So before that, you found someone who was illegal, you could hold them for ICE.
If there was a detainer, yes.
Okay.
We could.
All right. Let's get to the juicy part. So our mayor in Denver has a very different vision for the metro area than you. He has been very welcoming of these migrants, and I sympathize. I mean, if I were in another country, I would do whatever I had to get here. My concern is that 9 million is way too many, and with a planet of 8 billion people, half of whom would rather be in America than where they are, it's just undoable. So why do some people get in, others can't? Mayor Johnson says, misspoke, and I'll give him credit for just misspeaking, saying he's going to have his cops on the border of the county to do battle with. What I find so funny about that is it was Trump who was inciting insurrection, right? But here the mayor is saying we're going to have guns at the border of the county, and we're going to have 50,000 Highland mommies there ready to take up arms. What? As a guy who's made a living saying really dumbass stuff, I understand what it pumps out of another politician's mouth. But when asked to pull it back, he really didn't. He clarified it, but he said he would do everything. He'd go to jail to protect these people, and that the people of Denver will keep the feds from deporting these folks. It's
against federal law. So under Title 8 USC, I think it's 124, harboring an illegal immigrant. It's a crime. When I was running for sheriff, there's a lot of misinformation out there about the office of sheriff. Oh, you're a constitutional sheriff, you have more power than the president. All of that is, honestly, that's nonsense. Right. But the fact of the matter is that federal law supersedes state law. I have several detectives that are assigned to federal task forces, FBI, DEA, and they have federal authority.
Even though they're local cops.
They do, correct. So they're deputized as special deputies. I believe it's under the U.S. Marshal's office, even though they work with the FBI or DEA. So the federal government has the authority to deputize law enforcement officers and give them federal authority. I don't know if that's going to happen. I know that things are being planned right now. I don't know what it ultimately is going to look like. But the fact of the matter is, I was really shocked to hear the mayor of Denver make those comments. And I don't know if you really believe those comments, but if you are going to order Denver police officers to interfere with federal agents, that's a huge mistake.
One, it's illegal.
It's illegal.
Let's just say that. And two, listen, I know cops.
Yeah.
I don't think cops want to start having gun battles with other cops.
They don't.
Just my sense.
They don't. And I know a lot of Denver police officers, and they're like, yeah, that's not going to happen. So I don't know what the mayor of Denver believes he has the authority to do. I don't know if he's willing to be arrested. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. Who knows? The citizens of the United States overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump. And I think part of that vote was because of this migrant crisis that we have in our country right now. It's chaos. And the federal government managed to, allow these people to be bussed all over the country. They could figure out a way to get them out of the country as well.
You say it's against federal law to harbor a person who's here illegally. Are they really here illegally? Many of them have come in and they say, I want refugee status. I'm running for political reasons. And officially, the federal government goes, okay, we can't tell if that's true or not until we run you through the process, which might take years. And therefore, here's a place to stay, here's some food, we'll figure out what you're going to do, and we'll take the years it takes to wait to bring your case in front of the judges who can give you asylum here. In the meantime, you're just here.
Right. So some are, some aren't. My understanding of the process is a lot of these people were given dates to appear at various locations to start that process after they made it through the southern border. I think we're going to have our hands full with the actual criminals that have committed crimes in this country. But I believe that the Trump administration will actually vet these people out and determine whether or not they are seeking asylum. The Biden-Harris administration, I don't think they've done that.
When the mayor of Denver, when Denver arrests somebody who commits a crime, and let me tell you, I wonder if they really do, because so many of them get popped out so quickly, especially for low-level offenses. But stealing my car is not a low-level offense to me.
Right.
So do they have the same sort of demographics that you have? Would 11%, or 11% of their population in prison or jail right now be there on ICE holds, or these are people who are here illegally, but they're in jail for a crime? Is it the same numbers?
I have no idea, because the city of Denver is not sharing that information. To my knowledge, I'm the only law enforcement CEO, certainly a law enforcement CEO that's running the jail, that is sharing that information with the general public.
So I go to Doug Coe's sheriff's website. I can see who you've got in jail, not by name, but by from this country, from here, from there, for this crime, for that crime.
That's correct. dcsheriff.net. You can see the names of the individuals. It's a separate link, but you can see the names of the individuals. It's public information. And so it's public information. I think it's in everyone's best interest to share that information with who's in my custody.
I want to spend a minute on that. It's public information for me to know who you have in custody and their nationality and the crime that they're accused of. But you are the only sheriff that does this?
To my knowledge,
I'm
yes.
assuming this is not rocket science to make this stuff public. It's not like you've got to assign a crew of people to keep this website up and running. I'm imagining this is information that every jailer has.
It's automated. It automatically updates every morning at 7 a.m. If any sheriff is interested, we can certainly show them how we do it. It's not rocket science, but it refreshes every morning at 7 o'clock, so you can see exactly who is in our custody. And the reason that I did that is because there was misinformation out there as well, like that we have TDA members taking over Douglas County and our jail's full of TDA members. The fact is, our jail is mostly full of white males. That's the majority of the population that's in our custody. Which
makes sense, because most of Douglas County is white.
Exactly. So I thought it was important to be transparent with the public about who's actually incarcerated in our facility.
And how do you know if somebody is here illegally when you arrest them?
It depends on, we will do a clearance on them through our computer system and determine if we can identify who they are. They self-report many times. They may have an ID from another country. Once we clear them and get the accurate information, ICE may or may not have a detainer on them. And we can share information with ICE. That's one of the things that's misinformation out there. But what we can't do is we can't hold them for ICE if it's just an ICE detainer that's been assigned by an ICE agent. Now, if there's a warrant for their arrest and it's a criminal charge signed by a judge through the federal government, we can hold them for that, just not the detainers.
All right, so you arrest somebody who's a gang member, a Venezuelan gang member. He's also here illegally. Let's say you successfully prosecute him for his crime. He goes to a Colorado jail.
Correct.
And he gets sent to a Colorado prison if convicted.
Correct.
And we have to pay for that.
That's correct. So recently we just had a case, it's called the Gold Bars case. And 2 Indian migrants came through our southern border, and they were able to con a woman out of $200,000 in gold bars. We were able to secure a conviction on that, and these guys got sentenced to 6 years in prison. Once their time is up, they will be deported.
So we're going to put them in Hotel Colorado for 6 years and then pay to send them back to India.
Correct.
Am I not thinking right here? Am I missing something? Wouldn't it be cheaper just to send them back to India?
It was. I think as far as our criminal justice process, they're going to serve their time. If we sent them back to India and they did no time served, who's to say they wouldn't just come right back and commit more crimes?
Because it's so easy to get in.
Yeah, exactly. Well, currently, but I don't think it will be in the future.
I think it's hard to protect such a large border like the United States has. I think it's just a difficult thing. And building a wall is a difficult thing, and enforcing it is a difficult thing. But you can't argue with the numbers that have come in the last 4 years of at least 9 million people who have streamed across the border. It does say, it says everything. And this is a federal issue. Personally, I think Governor Abbott in Texas is genius for busing these people out. Mm-hmm. To send them to the places that say they're sanctuary areas. So it's not just his problem, it's the nation's problem. I think he woke up a nation to the issue.
I don't disagree with you. And I think it's also important to talk about the fentanyl crisis in this country. 75,000 Americans are dying annually due to fentanyl overdoses, much of which is coming through that southern border.
75,000.
Correct.
So basically, almost twice as many people that died in Vietnam die from fentanyl overdose.
Or gun violence.
Right.
And so but you rarely, I mean, obviously it's a headline here and there, but that's not the top story of how many people are dying every day, even in Colorado, from fentanyl. And again, it's coming up through that southern border. A lot of the fentanyl now is not in pill form. We're finding it more and more in powder form because it's easier to transport. And so it's something to be aware of. And kids, a teenager can get a hit of fentanyl at a house party for $2 or $3 because the market is so saturated and they don't even know what they're taking, and it could kill them.
There are things that are fentanyl testing kits. And I hear college kids saying, oh, we test all of our drugs for fentanyl because we know what we're doing. I see you shaking your head.
I think it's ridiculous. First of all, if you're taking this stuff anyway, I mean, how concerned are you about your health and welfare? I don't know who's using these fentanyl test kits, if anybody at all. But the fact that, and I am a parent, of somebody in their 20s, I'm terrified. Obviously I've got a good kid that wouldn't take drugs or anything like that. But
I hear you let her loose in the evidence locker.
Right. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is times are different, and these kids have no idea what they're taking. And I say kids, it could be a teenager, it could be somebody in their 20s.
Bringing it back to Denver. What happens when Mayor Johnson uses the city and county police to try to keep migrants safe in the city, safe from the feds coming to get them? And then you just go down south to Douglas County, and you've got a sheriff who is working with the feds to identify these people and have them deported. What does that dynamic look like in reality? Because it's one metro area. I know when you're in politics, this is Denver, this is Dougco, this is Aurora, but really, for anybody with a bus pass or a car, it's just Denver Metro.
I think the difference is being elected and being appointed. I don't answer to a city council. I don't answer to a mayor. I answer to the people that elected me sheriff. I don't care what your party affiliation is. I don't only serve Republicans. I serve all of the citizens of Douglas County, and I'm accountable to them. If I don't do a good job and I don't keep my community safe, I don't get reelected. When you're appointed chief of police, you tend to do what the city manager, mayor, or city council tells you to do.
How many constituents do you have? How many are in Douglas?
About 375.
375. The chief of police in Denver has one constituent. That's the mayor, and then maybe the city council. That's the constituency he has to please. That's why elected sheriffs are so remarkably vital, and why there's such a difference between sheriff's offices and police departments. That a police department, the guy has no responsibility to the people his cops pull over. Every time one of your deputies pulls over somebody in Douglas County, he's pulling over one of your constituents who's going to vote on you. And that interaction will reflect on your next election. It's remarkably great accountability.
You're 100% accurate, and that's why we have great deputy sheriffs that we hire. You hear about the hiring crisis in law enforcement, particularly with Denver Aurora. They're down a couple hundred cops. By the end of this year, I will be fully staffed. I am not having a hiring problem. I'm hiring Denver cops. I'm hiring Aurora cops because they want to come and work for my agency, because they feel appreciated. We take good care of them. They got competitive pay, competitive benefits, great retirement plan, and the citizens appreciate public safety. It's not about politics. I get just as many Democrats coming up to me, Sheriff, you're doing an outstanding job. Sheriff, I just talked to one of your deputies the other day. Sheriff, I got pulled over by one of your deputies the other day. Great person. And to your point, I am accountable to all of the citizens of Douglas County. And it's in my best interest to ensure that I hire the best cops I can hire and that we do the job the way that it's supposed to be done.
Aurora has, as you said, a huge shortage of cops. Denver was down 200, maybe even more cops. And they're out there advertising, please come to Denver where you have no authority and you won't be able to actually enforce the law. I understand why cops would rather work in a law enforcement environment where they're valued. I get that, where they can actually do their job. What's the difference between the two? In other words, if I'm a cop and I'm thinking about either applying to work for you or the Denver Police Department, what's the real difference? I mean, my day-to-day will be different. How?
We catch bad guys. And if you follow us on social media, you'll see foot pursuits, you'll see car chases, you'll see us making arrests and protecting our community. We're not reckless. We've got very strict policies and procedures, but we do the job the right way. And we hold criminals accountable. I want the reputation. If you come into Douglas County, I don't care where you live. If we don't catch you in the act, we will track you down and find you. You may steal one of our cars, but guess what? We're going to get a warrant if we find that car and put a tracker on that vehicle to find out where you're going to go. We will go above and beyond the call of duty to apprehend criminals in our jurisdiction.
You will go into other jurisdictions to catch somebody who did a crime in Dougco?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. We let that jurisdiction know. So if we're going to execute a search warrant, if we're going to put a tracker on a car, and we have to do that with a warrant, and we will go out of our way and put the time and energy that it takes to catch these individuals that commit crimes in my county.
When you say, if I come work for you, I get to catch bad guys, compared to what? Describe it in Denver County. Denver. I know that I'm putting you on a hot seat, but
no,
really,
it's okay.
Be honest.
I don't work there, but I have heard from Denver cops we're not even allowed to do police work, and I've heard from other jurisdictions. I've heard from Aurora that they don't even have time. The little things matter in law enforcement. the quality of life things matter in law enforcement. Some of these bigger agencies like Denver and Aurora, they won't respond to your house if you have a theft report to take. They'll tell you to go online and do it, and then it goes God knows where. We understand the value and the quality of life in our county, and we want to ensure that our citizens feel like they're protected and that we are responsive to them when they've been victimized, whether it's a theft report, burglary, your car got broken into, or you're a victim of domestic violence. We will put in the time and energy that it takes. And we're not perfect. We make mistakes, or we don't have enough evidence to prosecute, but we're going to do everything that we can to hold that line. When I got elected and I gave my inauguration speech, I said, I'm going to do everything that I can to keep Douglas County. And what I meant by that is the quality of life in Douglas County, that we won't become like the rest of the Denver metro area. And people don't know jurisdictional lines, but the majority of the rest of the Denver metro area is a mess. People live in Douglas County for a reason, regardless of party affiliation, because it's safe. You don't see homeless people on every street corner. You don't see a crime-ridden community because the little things matter. And it's a whole broken windows theory, right? And so it's important that that we have enough cops out there on the street to be proactive, that we're not just being reactive, just answering call to call to call. My commissioners have been very gracious to my agency. They've added many, many law enforcement officers every year. I think over the last 3 years, they've added over 60 law enforcement officers to my agency. And the municipalities, Parker, Lone Tree, Castle Rock, they've added cops as well, because we recognize the importance of public safety in a community.
What's your advice to Mayor Johnson?
Make public safety a priority. It seems like I don't understand when he made those statements, especially when the Trump administration has said we're going to go after criminals and people on the terror watch list first. And then you have Mayor Johnson saying there's going to be a Tiananmen Square type of thing, and they're going to block them from doing that. I'm like, what are you thinking? The Denver Police Department has trouble just policing the city of Denver, and not to mention adding this other layer. I don't understand it, and I don't get it. I think that the Democrats wanted to create a one-party system, which is why that they opened the border to begin with.
What do you mean by that?
I think that they wanted to give voting rights to the migrants that have made their way here, so that the migrants would vote Democrat. I think a lot of people feel that way.
I have no idea if my ancestors came to this nation legally or illegally. I'm just grateful that they have. The difference was when they got here, there was no safety net. There was no government welfare state. There was no services from the government to these people. They had to find their own communities, their family, the friends from the old country. They had to be in their areas so that they could get help from those people, and in return they gave help to the next guy who came in. For me, it's not the state of welfare, it's the welfare state that's causing this problem. And why wouldn't you want to come up here, especially if you're not going to get arrested when you commit a crime? Let's wrap this up with this. Denver is a sanctuary city. Is Colorado a sanctuary state? Given the 2019 law change that ties the hands of guys like you, is it a sanctuary state?
No, it's not. Obviously the Democrats have control of our capital. We got a few seats back, this election cycle, but outside of the Denver Boulder area, I don't think so. And I'll bring this up again. I believe that the fact that Trump won says a lot about the state of this country. Obviously, he didn't win Colorado, but I think outside of the metropolitan area, it's not a sanctuary state. And I think it's important. I would like to get this out as well. I don't want to be portrayed as some sort of a racist. My grandmother is Mexican, migrated here from Mexico. I'm part Mexican myself. I'm not a racist. This has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with public safety. When I gave my Trump speech, I said, I want you to imagine a terrorist coming across our southern border. Several terrorists. Imagine a terrorist cell, sleeper cell in the United States that is plotting some sort of a mass casualty event. I have no inside information, but the fact of the matter is our open border lends itself to something like that happening, whether it's Denver, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, wherever. The Biden-Harris administration created this crisis, and I believe President Trump is going to fix it. I believe my federal partners know that there's a lot of terrorist individuals that are on the terror watch list in our country now, and I'm very hopeful that everything will be done to protect our citizens. But these are the major issues that the people from the left, they're not considering, that could be happening in our country or could happen in our country at any time.
If harboring someone who's here illegally is a crime, federal crime, there are a lot of people who are doing this out of the charity of their hearts. I know people who have opened up their homes to migrants because they're sleeping in tents, they're staying in rec centers, and the mayor's out there asking people, hey, can you open up your home to these people? Are they criminals?
That's a tough question. I don't mean to come across as painting all of these migrants as criminals, because they're not. And this is not an easy problem to solve. And I don't mean to come across that this is going to be a simple issue. No, I don't think in their heart that they are criminals. I think they're trying to do the right thing, and I think they're trying to help people. The problem is we've got a lot of muddy water to sift through, and it's going to take decades potentially to figure it out.
How many people here illegally do you think in the next year or two will be given to ICE from DUGCO?
Potentially, maybe 500, maybe 1,000. We're a much smaller community. Our jail population as of today was like 348. I did pull some stats, and we've only had 78 people thus far that actually have ICE holds. But that doesn't mean
only. That seems like a lot of people.
Well, those are people that is actually already on ICE's radar, right? And so if there was a migrant that committed a low-level crime and it's not on ICE's radar already, they may not have an ICE detainer. But right now it's just 78. But again, we don't hold them on those.
Last question. You seem to be very comfortable being a Republican. Throughout this whole conversation, you said, we've got the courts, we've got the Congress, we've got this, we've got that. You identify strongly as a Republican. I hate to tell you this, that's a dumb political move in this state, and especially the way DUGCO is changing demographically. As used to be, Arapahoe was a stronghold Republican, Jeffco was a stronghold Republican. Why do you feel so comfortable talking about being a Republican?
My my parents were Democrats, and I just grew up admiring Ronald Reagan.
Until you had them deported?
No, I did not. I did not. But I just naturally grew up to embracing the Republican principles and values. I grew up admiring the leadership of Ronald Reagan. And, my 18th birthday, I remember registering to vote and registering as a Republican. And I don't think Democrats are bad or anything like that, but I believe in less government. I believe in financial, fiscal responsibility. I believe the government should be out of people's lives. I think the most important role of government is to protect its citizens. And I think the Biden-Harris administration has turned their back on protecting the American public.
I'll go a little farther. It's not just the Biden-Harris administration. It is a progressive, nearly socialistic Democrat system we have here in our Capitol, in our governor's office, and in the courts. And we are in a very progressive state, and we're starting to see the cost of that, not only with high inflation, people not being able to afford a home, but, surprise, crime. All right. So you going to run for re-election?
I think so. I'm going to kind of weigh my options, but I love my job. I love my community. So at this point, that's...
Even though the Venezuelan gangs have an order out to kill you, you still love your job.
The citizens elected me to do a job, and I believe that I am the best person and most qualified to do that job. And so I want to keep my community safe, and so my plan is I'm going to continue to do so.
Sheriff, thanks for spending some time with me. This was very interesting.
Thank you for having me.
If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. And subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.